Welcome back. I hope you are enjoying writing the Python programs. As a part of this video, we'll understand how to write a Python program to find the factorial of a number. Let's get started. But what is a factorial of a number? Pretty easy, right? You would have already studied this as a part of your high school, right? So what is a factorial of a number? Factorial of a number is the multiplication of all the numbers between 1 and the number itself. Let us take an example here. 5 factorial. How do we find that? All the numbers, the number itself. Here you can see 1 is there. And what are the numbers between 1 and 5? That is 4, 3, 2, 1. So what we'll do is we'll say 5 into 4, 4 into 3, 3 into 2, 2 into 1. So the factorial is the multiplication of all the numbers between 1 and the number itself. So 5 factorial would be 120. How do we write a Python program for this? Let us understand. As I always say, you have to have a thought process. You have to analyze how do you go about writing a program before you even write a program. The first and foremost thing is you have to accept a input. Means user wants to compute the factorial for which number. And second thing is after taking an input, there'll be condition. If the number is less than 0, if that happens to be true, then you have to say print the negative numbers not allowed. In case if it happens to be false, that means the number is greater than 0, and within that there'll be two possibilities. Number can be equivalent to 0. If that is true, then print the value greater than 0, or it will be equivalent to 1. Then if it is false, go ahead and compute the factorial. How do you compute the factorial of a number? Pretty easy. The computation involved here is all you have to do is whatever the number which is specified by a user, that number into all the numbers between 1 and that number. How will you do that? So we can do that by iterating through all the numbers between 1 and that number. How do we iterate? By using a loop that we have already done. There are two parts. One is iteration. Again, we can do that using a for loop. And the second one is computation. Computation is multiplying all the numbers between the input number and 1. After that, we'll get a factorial of a number. We can print that. So let us see this in action. I am in Jupyter Notebook. Let me go ahead and open a new notebook to write this program. You can see the title of this notebook is Untitled 8. Do you want that to be Untitled 8? No. Let us double click on that and it will open this box. Let us double click on that. It will prompt us to change the name. So I will say Python program for factorial. Damn. You can see that is what appears here. So what is the first step? We got to accept a input from a user. How do I do that? Very, very simple, right? First, declare the variable like val1 is equal to, I'll say int because I want to accept only the int numbers, and I'll say input, and I'll go and say, please enter the number to compute the factorial. Okay, then we got to have one more variable because that is needed for the computation, right? I'll say fact is equal to 1. I'm initializing it to 1 because all the factorials need to be computed from 1. Then I got to iterate it, right? So for that, I will use a loop, for loop, and I will say I in range, and I'll say 1. I want to start the range from 1 and also val 1. I am purposefully missing to give something here, but I'll tell you what it is. Okay. So let me go ahead and say now, what is the computation? Computation is, as we already discussed, fact is equal to fact into what? I, right? Because I want to iterate through all the values of I. I am starting I with 1, then I'll go up to val 1. So let me go ahead and print. I'll say the factorial of a number is fact. I'm going to print the same thing. Okay. Is the program ready? Let us go ahead and execute this. So I'll say shift enter. Oh, there is a problem here. Remember always, whenever you are having a loop or if else statement, you have to give a colon. That is the part of the syntax. Please do not forget this. From next time onwards, I'm not going to show this to you. So let me go ahead and run this program again. Again, there is an issue. It says, I forgot the comma. Okay, where? Here. Let me go ahead and fix that. I hope you guys are able to understand this. Will this work now? Let us see. Yes, it is working. Let me enter 3. What should be the factorial of a 3? It is 3 into 2 into 1. That should be 6. Will this compute the factorial correctly? Let us see. The factorial of a number 3 is 2. Is that right? No, it is not right. Then where exactly may be a problem? Can you think for a while? The problem is here. I did indicate to you, I am purposefully making some mistake here. If you see, I'm saying a range 1 up to val 1. How does the range function work? Until that value. Range function will not include that value. So if I want to compute the factorial until the value provided by a user, I want to provide a range as a val 1 plus 1. So that way it will include the number provided by the user. Let me go ahead and enter this and say 3 now. Yes, we fixed it. Let me take one more bigger number. Okay, let us say 5 here. It is 120. Yes, our program is working fine. But how exactly is the iteration going on? Very simple. What I need to do is I'll print the values before the computation. So let me go ahead and copy this and I will print the values before the computation. That will help us to know. I'll print fact and I will print. Why am I printing I? Because I want to know how the values are getting iterated, right? Okay. So one more thing I need to do is I got to bring this print also within the loop. Otherwise, there'll be an issue. I'll say for each of the i's, what is the correct? Let me see if it takes care of this. Let me enter this. Yes, say 3 now. Yes. Let me explain it again. I will say, how is it working? 1, 1. The value of the factorial is 1 before it is entering the loop, and the value of I is 1. And next, what happens is the computation has to happen. Then fact into I, that is 1 into 1 is 1. So the factorial of a number I is 1. For the first time, value of I is 1. Then the increment happens. The next one, what happens is still the value of the fact variable is 1, but the incremented value of I is 2. That is what is happening here. Then what happens is the factorial of a number 2, that is 2 into 1 becomes 2. Then at this point of time, the value of the factorial is 2. Then I is incremented to 3, right? Then what happens is the factorial of a number 3 is 6. Okay, we understood how iteration is happening and how the computation is happening. Is there anything missing in this program? What if user gives a negative number? That scenario we need to handle, right? So how do we handle that? Very simple. Let me copy this program and paste it in a different cell. So all I will do is I will introduce a if statement here. If value of 1 is less than 0, if user gives value of number less than 0, then say, Are Baba, please give a value which is a positive number. Or rather, I'll say, please enter the positive number. Okay. And I will bring this guy, say else, do this. Remember the indentation, right? Now all I have to do is to tap that. So one more thing I got to take care is, I'll say val1, because I don't want to iterate now. And I will go ahead and comment these two. Okay, I think we are all set. Let us go and test this program and give 5. Array, I fixed one problem, but I introduced one more problem. Do you want the factorial of a number 5 is 1 to be printed like this? Actually, it is not correct. Again, I have to tackle this. How do I tackle this? Any thoughts from your side? Can you think of, I want to print only this one. How do I do that? Pretty simple. So what you can do is introduce a if statement. Then I say print only for the value of 5 when it hits the value of 1. Only in that case print this, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Let me take care of the indentation. Okay, let us run this again. I will say 5. Awesome, we fixed that also. Did you look at the ways how we get a different issues and how do you tackle them? Isn't it really good? Aren't you enjoying this? Please try all these variations and become good in Python. Thank you.